All right, Misty, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm so thrilled to be talking about this. I just got into a conversation at a co-working space about finding your voice, and it
Mm,
really just kept coming back to the way that I could describe it is dropping down into what is your heart. And I know you're so passionate about like wholehearted, heart-centered entrepreneurship and just living out your life. And I think those two go hand in hand is as a podcaster, you're really learning to use your voice. And when it really clicks in for people as listeners of your podcast is when we get in touch with those heart things.
mhm.
But there can be barriers to really understanding our own heart and the drive of really understanding our own voices through some limiting beliefs, which you are such a great expert and somebody who could help us walk through how to break through some of these limiting beliefs that's really preventing us as podcasters from using our authentic voice.
Absolutely. I love that you are already recognizing that that authentic voice comes from the heart.
Yes.
Because it's really easy to try to solve problems and to try to move and create just from our mind.
Mhm.
And that's where all the limiting beliefs and all the noise is stored. And so the way that I like to describe this is what I call your first voice and your second voice.
Mm.
And your first voice is in your heart. It's the truth of who you are. I differentiate that. I don't necessarily like the term my truth
Mm.
because I think my truth is wrapped up in all the limiting beliefs. It's all the patterns of protection that I've created. It's all the experiences that I've had that have told me I'm not enough,
Mm.
right? That's what my voice can be wrapped up in. The truth, the truth of who I am is connected to God.
Mhm.
And when I can drop into the truth of who I am, that's the first voice. That's that heart voice. That's the truth of the message that I'm meant to share, the gifts that I'm meant to give to the world. And that's what I would imagine why your listeners and all of us heart centered entrepreneurs are actually doing the work that we're doing
Mhm.
because we felt that call on our heart and we
Absolutely.
felt that little niggle that said you're meant for more. The
Mm.
problem is we drop into that first voice, we feel that little niggle, we feel that little like yes, let's go, and we take a step in the direction of that first voice, and then all the second voice comes into play, and that's all the noise in our mind. That's the yeah buts, that's the what ifs, that's the who's going to listen, am I even going to have something to say, am I going to be misunderstood, are people really going to listen to me, right? It's all of
Mhm.
those second voices that stop us. They get in the way of us creating what we're here and what we're meant to create.
Mhm.
um, but that, yeah, I love that you have already tapped into that first voice and second voice is critical, because when we can turn the volume up on our first voice and turn the volume down on our second voice, that's when we actually take action, that's when we show up.
Mm. So good. And I'm like going through all of the scenarios in my own story and in so many podcasters that I've worked with that they start off with this. I woke up in the middle of the night and I heard I need to start a podcast. Or I've just always had this little voice in me that's like, you know what? I need to share my story, or I want to create an impact. I want to step into my purpose. And then the second voice comes in, and that's where I'm usually on a phone call with them and saying, "Okay, where are we stuck?" And they think it's around, I don't know what equipment, I don't know how to get my podcast out there. It's that I don't know how so I'm paralyzed. But it
Mhm.
sounds like I love how you have described that, is the second voice is kicked in, and now they're logically in the logical side of things of like, okay, now I need to think my way to this next step. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to give you two scenarios that I think are going to really help clarify this a little bit. The first is, so I run retreats. I coach one-on-one, and I run retreats. And it's all around this idea of connecting to your first voice and moving and taking action from that first voice as we turn down the volume on that noise. So I was at a retreat, and I asked for one brave volunteer. And her goal was to make it through an obstacle course that I'd set up with chairs and get from one side of the room to the other side of the room. And there was a couple of different caveats that were going to make this a little bit more challenging. The first, she was blindfolded. Okay, so the only way that she knew how to navigate the obstacle course was by listening to her trusted guide, which was another woman on the other side of the room.
Mhm.
And she had to listen to her trusted guide to help her to navigate through this obstacle course. Well,
Okay.
the other thing was that I had all the other 25 participants in the room write down a thought that got in their way, that kept them from taking action. And so they wrote down their limiting beliefs. And I said, okay, just say those out loud as in the room as this woman is trying to navigate the obstacle course. And so she's starting out, she's trying to listen to her trusted guide on the opposite side of the room. And all this noise around her is just, you're not good enough. You're never going to make it. Who's going to listen to you anyway? Just
Mm.
repeated over and over and over again. And as she started out taking a couple of steps forward and feeling pretty confident. But about 4 or 5 steps in, she stopped, and she put her hands over her ears, and she said, I can't hear anything. I don't know what to do.
Wow.
Right.
That gives
And
me shivers.
yeah. And isn't that what we've all experienced? Right.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, I'm confused because I think it's the tech problems.
Mhm.
I don't know what technology to use. I don't know what to write for my
Mhm.
next podcast. I don't have enough to say, right? All of those things are just the noise that keeps us paralyzed.
Mm.
It's not that the first voice isn't there guiding us, it's just we can't hear it.
Mm. So good. Okay, that just brings such a great picture of what is literally going on inside of our mind, body, and spirit as we are bravely taking that step forward and we get stuck. Just like that example where we just get paralyzed and either drop back in fear and kind of give up, or even with podcasters that are 100 episodes in, this is absolutely true where you just get into this mode of it's too much. I don't have anything else to offer. I don't even know what I'm offering. Who am I to continue this podcast? So, okay, so say you're working with a podcast client or an entrepreneur, a person, a woman who is who has got this block of all these limiting beliefs that have piled up and piled up and piled up. That second voice is kicked into gear. How do we start to break through? How do we start to unpack and get past the loud noise that's going on inside of
Mhm.
our chatterbox inside of our brain?
Yeah, yeah. Love that question. And it's about going to work in a different way. I think a lot of us, myself included, we started our businesses because we felt a call. We felt a call on our heart. That woman who wakes up in the middle of the night and says, I'm supposed to start a podcast.
Mhm.
There's a message I'm meant to share. It's like the story of Esther. right? Like, oh, perhaps I'm made for such a time as this, right?
Amen. Yes, I love
Yeah.
that story.
Yeah, that's like my favorite. That's my favorite story. I love the story of Esther. There's so many good
Yes.
lessons in that. And so we feel this call, and then we go, okay, God, thanks. Now I'm going
Mhm.
to go create it. And we try to use the exact same steps that we've used to create every other goal in our life, which is like for me, like running marathons. Like I print off a training plan on the internet, and I go out and I put in the hours, and then at the end of the day, I run my marathon and checkbox success. Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. When God puts a call on our heart, we have to create, we have to co-create our
Oh.
heart-centered business.
Mhm.
If we just try to jump into creation like we've always done everything else, it doesn't work. And I know
Yeah.
that I felt that frustration for a long time. It felt
Mhm.
like I was just like running up against this invisible brick wall. Like, I'm doing all the things. Why is it not working?
Oh, yeah. I think so many people are gonna resonate with that. I'm doing all the things, especially those that are in a year into podcasting or a year and a half, 2 years in, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing all the things. Okay,
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
going because this is so
Yeah.
good.
So, the way that we co create is a process that I call awake, aware, align. Okay.
Okay.
This is the process that I coach on and that I use at my retreats as well. The first step is awaking to the truth, right? It's turning up the volume on that first voice. It's really getting clear on why it is that you are called to do the work that you're doing and
Mm,
why it's possible for you, right? Because a lot of times there's a difference between this is the work I'm called to do and this is the work of becoming who I need to be to do the work that I'm called to
mm.
do.
Okay. Wait, say that again. Say that again.
There's a difference between this is the work that I'm called to do and this is who I need to become to do the work I'm
Yeah.
called to do,
Mhm.
right? And that becoming process can take a while. All right. So
Okay.
that's first step. Awake to the truth of who you are. Turn the volume up on that first voice.
Okay.
The second step is turn down the volume on the second voice, right? We have to become aware of what's stopping us. Most of the time, we're not aware of what's getting in our way. We think the technology issues. I'm just not technologically savvy.
Mhm.
I don't know what to say. My kids need me. I'm too distracted. There's not enough of me to go around.
Mhm.
Right? That's what we think it is, right? We need to bring those brick walls, what I call your invisible brick walls, into awareness. We need to see what it is that's actually stopping you. Because if you're running into an invisible brick wall, what's the only thing that lets you know you're running into something? If it's invisible, you can't see it. What's the only way you're running into something?
The pain of hitting it.
Yes, exactly. Your head hurts, your nose hurts, and you're
Mhm.
frustrated because you're not
Mm.
moving forward.
Yeah.
That's what lets you know you're running up against a limiting belief. Your
Mm.
results don't lie, right? If you're not getting the results that you want, but you still feel like you're like running into it's like if I run hard enough, if I run fast enough, I'm just going to break through that brick wall. But we just end up feeling more frustrated, more pain, and our nose starts feeling broken, right?
Yes.
So what we look at is the pain is an opportunity to pay attention inside now. PAIN. Pay attention inside now. That's what lets us know there's a limiting belief that's getting in the way.
Hmm.
So when we can move through it, see the invisible brick wall, bring it into awareness, then that's when we have the choice to go around it, over it, figure out a way to dig under it. But until we see the invisible brick wall, we're just going to keep running right into it.
Mm.
And the other thing that seeing the brick wall does for us is it allows us to have grace for ourselves, right? Compassion for ourselves. Like, oh, this is why. Like, I thought it was just me. I thought I just didn't know what to do or didn't have what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the second step, is we become aware of the brick wall that's stopping us so that we can choose a new course of action and go around it. And then the third step, when we've tapped into the truth of who we are, when we've awakened to the truth of who we are, and then when we've brought into awareness and reframed the limiting beliefs that are stopping us, then we can move into aligned action. And aligned action is God's action.
Mm.
Just meeting with a client today, and she was talking about how the belief that was shifting for her is that it was possible for her to create what she wanted in the time that she had. We had been doing some work and she had been shifting that belief. And she said what was amazing was that she was actually following through. She had tried time blocking her time for years. Like, it was a strategy that she had tried for years and never stuck with. She's like, I don't know, but in this last week, I started time blocking, and actually I have kept every appointment I've made for myself. I've never done that before.
That's impressive.
Right, right. But it's because it was coming from an aligned place. If
Yeah.
it feels like a strategy that I have to do, it feels like willpower. And
Mm.
it feels like, oh, there's a million other things that are going to get in the way. There's all these distractions and excuses of why I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But because it felt like it was coming from an aligned place, and that was the aligned strategy that she came up with between her and God,
Hmm.
that propelled her into action from a place of decisiveness and energy and vibrancy that she had never felt before. And so she followed through.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, goodness. I'm thinking of so many different scenarios of this and how it could apply. I'm thinking of I'm running a growth course, and so um, this growth course has very tangible tasks to do. But something that I've always hesitated on in how I was taught how to grow a podcast was there is willpower, like you're saying, and always coming back to this. I just didn't have this name for it, of that aligned, like, what is it that God's calling you to do? It may not be a social media 72-hour window plugin. It might be something very specific that he's telling you to do that aligns with you. And that's the maybe disconnect of why you have not chosen to do it for so long, because it's not in alignment with how you present yourself to the world or your
Exactly.
identity or your um uh, I mean, because essentially that awaken to the truth of who you are, that is your identity, the awareness of like turning down what all of those extra feedback that's coming in. And then that aligned action, I mean, it's all connected to who you are and who he has created you to be specifically, which sometimes strategy in this world of marketing and podcasting is not gonna work. I call it the Holy Spirit override of like, yeah, that's it may
Yeah,
work for a lot of people, but it may not be what he's called you to do. So,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, this is so good. Okay. Anything else with the aligned action?
I think that the way that you know that you're in aligned action is it doesn't feel hard.
Mm.
I My clients describe it as becoming different without having to remember to be different.
Ugh, yeah.
Like, it's just who you are. It just flows from you. Now, it doesn't mean that there's not, like, you're not bumping up against obstacles, but those obstacles, it's not like you're running up against the obstacle and you're like, well, guess that means turn around. Guess that
Mhm.
means I'm just going to like truck off in a different direction. It's okay, here's the obstacle, God, thanks. Who am I becoming as I walk over this obstacle? Who am I
Mm.
becoming? What's the confidence that I build in myself as I figure out a solution for getting through this obstacle?
Mm.
It's not about not taking action. It's just that the obstacles don't stop us.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
just become something different in the process. The other thing that I will say, this just keeps coming to my mind, so I'll share it. I had a client that I worked with, and she was a coach. She had a coaching business. She felt like it was her gift, her calling, what she wanted to share with the world. She'd also recently gotten divorced, and she needed to make an income that could support her. For the
Mhm.
first time in her life, she had to have a stable income that would support her. And she wasn't sure if she could create a sustainable coaching business and take care of herself. In the time that we worked together, she created a stable enough income. She bought her own car. She bought her first house.
Mm.
She built her successful coaching business. And this is the part that I think is so important. The end of our coaching together, she said, Misty, I look at all of the results that I've created in my life, and never once did you tell me what to do.
Wow.
Right? Because it
Mhm.
wasn't about me. It was
Mhm.
about her co-creating this desire with God.
Mm.
That as she took action in faith, wake, aware, align over and over and over again, she created exactly what she desired, but in the way that she wanted it. She didn't
Mm.
want this multi-million dollar business. She wanted to be with her grandkids. She wanted space to be a mom. She wanted space to just sit on her couch and read or garden.
Mhm.
And so God was like, okay, I'm going to show you how to do it in your way, in the way that feels aligned for you. Because if you try to just go out and follow the cookie cutter, it's going to feel overwhelming and it's going to feel like it's not a fit.
Mhm.
So she designed what she wanted and created that with God and got everything she wanted.
Mm. That's a beautiful example of how that could play out, especially with as many coaches that are listening to this. I'm sure you're resonating with that story of I did all of the coaching certification and maybe you are hitting that invisible brick wall and frustrated. I know for me personally, even last November, I hit a wall and was like, okay, here comes some work. I can feel it. I'm dropping in. And like we started at the very beginning, I think it's so important to stay aware and clear of what's happening in our voice and that first voice, like you said, um, because it's over and over again an opportunity for growing, and it's going to affect every area of your life, not just podcasting. Yes, we're specifically talking about podcasting or your business, but I see this playing out in your relationships with others and with yourself, like thinking about fitness and how that plays into fitness and limiting beliefs there, and how we treat our bodies and our faith in all areas. So, oh, this is so good. I know there's going to be a lot of people, including myself, who are going to want to know more about these retreats that you lead with some other fabulous women. And can you share a little bit about that in case somebody wants to jump on board?
Absolutely. So you can find me on social, Misty Springer Coaching, or my website is mistyspringer.com. And we do have a retreat, our first international retreat for
Yes.
faith aligned women, which that's the feedback that we continue to get. I've run multiple retreats, and some have been faith based and some have been not. And the last time we ran a retreat, it was for faith based entrepreneurs. And the feedback that we got was, there is not enough of this. We are not having this conversation about bringing God into our business. I had one of the participants say, I am like, my faith is incredibly important to me. I've been a business owner for 12 years. I have never thought about praying about my business. She's like, I don't
Wow.
even know how I missed that. Like, I don't even know how I could have kept them separate, and that's not everyone's experience, but that, just that realization in and of itself, like,
Mm.
yeah, sometimes it feels like bringing this business into the world is impossible. It feels
Yeah.
like an impossible task. And we're promised with God, nothing is impossible. So why are we not bringing God into the creation of our business?
Yeah.
So that's what we're bringing faith-based entrepreneurs together, making God a part of that, walking through the awake, aware, aligned process, and co-creating their vision for themselves and leading their life and their business with God as their guide.
Mm.
And that will be in Costa Rica, May 15th through the 19th.
Okay.
We are finalizing the landing page on that. But if there are any questions at all, even if you're like, just have something pricked in your brain and you're like, I don't know about this, I want to ask Misty about this, please reach out. Like, I absolutely love interacting with other faith-based entrepreneurs. Like I said, we need a space to be able to talk about this.
Yeah.
I also offer one-on-one coaching, and the first initial consult is absolutely free. It's where we look at, what are your limiting beliefs? What are those invisible brick walls that you're running into? We start the process of, what is your true desire? What's
Mhm.
holding you back from getting that? So even that is an opportunity just to explore, what does this look like for me? Like,
Yeah.
this is all well and good as a concept and a theory, but what does this actually look like for me? So if they're wondering about that, or have questions about the retreat, just message me, go to my website. There's resources there, but get in
Awesome.
contact.
Okay. I wanna go to Costa Rica.
Ah,
And
you should come. It'll be amazing.
Ah, sign me up. All right. Well, thank you so much, Misty, for coming on and sharing your amazing heart-centered wisdom. I so appreciate that, as somebody who loves dropping from the head to the heart, and, I just, yeah, adored this conversation, and it will stick with me for a long time, so thank you.
You are so welcome. And thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and just the voice that you are in the world, and for sharing your voice. It matters a
Mm,
lot. So thank
thank you.
you.
All right. Take care, you guys.